Awesome. So my name is Marina Spott, and I'm really happy and excited to talk to you today about sustainability in the world of herbs and spices with a focus on Ayurveda. Since starting this program, my connection to Mother Earth and nature has grown tremendously. And with that, the appreciation for the love and passion that go into growing and harvesting the Ayurvedic herbs and spices that sustain us, the preservation of ecosystems, and what that means for the planet. For those of you who don't know, Ayurveda is an incredibly old system of medicine, with origins dating back 5,000-6,000 years ago. Practitioners, sages, and householders could walk through their local community and freshly harvest Ayurvedic herbs from the wild. This rich tradition of wildcrafting has harmoniously brought man and nature together for thousands of years. And that way of life is being destroyed. Sounds a little dramatic, but it's ultimately true. As we know, the planet is burning, and there's so much that we can actually do about it. In relation to Ayurvedic spices, we are irresponsibly harvesting or over harvesting these sacred herbs for lack of education. And next slide, please. There are herbalists that say we have a kinship to plants. They say we have a responsibility to nurture and build strong relationships with that which grows from the earth. As humans, we often take from Mother Earth, stripping her of her bark, her old twisted roots, and her vibrant flowers. We often take for granted those who aim to save her, unknowingly supporting unfair trade and human rights abuses. All too often, we pull from our grocery store shelves without even a thought. And even so, I can feel a shift. We want to be educated. Humans want to be educated. We want to do better. How can we, as humans, change our mindsets and elevate our consciousness to understand how to truly love what little we have left of our world? How can we not only sustain but help all of the different ecosystems of our planet, big and small, flourish? What does Ayurveda teach us that can help us with this process? Next slide, please. With this project, I have chosen to focus on sustainable harvesting, social responsibility, fair trade principles, respecting traditions and cultures, and supporting the livelihoods of all stakeholders, those being collectors and workers. Next slide, please. So in 2020, the word sustainability is everywhere. It's a buzzword across all industries, among the likes of superstar buzzwords such as organic and fair trade. You've probably heard those before. So let's talk about it, right? Sustainability is extremely important, and it can be defined as the processes and actions through which humankind avoids the depletion of natural resources, which is influenced by the way societies are organized to keep an ecological balance so that society's quality of life doesn't decrease. We definitely don't want it to decrease. We want it to increase. but the least we can do is sustain it. Next slide, please. So 3 major factors go into creating something that is truly sustainable. We call this the triple bottom line: people, planet, and profit. So we have the people on the ground, we have the farm co-ops, we have the growers, the collectors, the communities that are helping to bring these spices to us. Therefore, and by supporting these people, by educating them on more sustainable harvesting techniques, by working with them, by supporting them financially somewhat, by donating our time, by donating our money, and then eventually helping them to create a sustainable program, we're helping the planet. We're helping the planet. We are saving these extremely diverse ecosystems, and we're saving species. We're saving the planet by educating, and therefore we're creating profit not only for these companies that are helping to create this sustainability, but more importantly, we're helping the communities and the regions where these herbs are being grown, where these people are putting their love and lives into these plants and herbs, and we're creating funding for these communities, so to use as they like: education, clean water, etc. So this is just a more simple way to think about it, but it's really important, this beautiful cycle. Next slide, please. So to better understand sustainability, we must understand what current methods of harvesting are depleting our natural resources. The answer is dependent on what or where you are growing and collecting. Almost 85% of botanical raw drugs used by India's herbal industry are obtained from the wild. These aren't herbs that are being farmed, they're growing wild. In this case, we have Jadamansi, which grows in the Himalayas. So we're looking at the super popular herb Jadamansi, one of Nepal's most commercially valuable and utilized species. Harvested from high altitude Himalayan regions, Jadamansi is huge in Ayurveda. My instructor Marina can tell you that for sure. We talk about it all the time. Used in aromatherapy, and it is known as a pitta balancing herb. It calms any heat. Pitta is fire, so it calms any heat. It purifies the blood. It is also known to brighten the skin. It's used often in face packs and skincare. It improves strength and immunity, as well as helping with depression, thus being a famous Ayurvedic herb and the source of income for many. At least 15,000 people across the Himalayan region depend on Jadamansi harvesting for 25% of their annual income. Habitat loss and overharvesting are the main reason for its decline, threatening the survival of the species. Next slide, please. The ecosystem's wider biodiversity is also threatened, as well as the livelihoods of harvester communities. As of 2009, 300 of India's medicinal plants were on the International Union for Conservation of Nature's Red List of Threatened Species, Jadamansi being one of them. So you can actually look into this if you Google Red List. What should come up is a website that lists all threatened species, from animals to plants to forests. You can search by region. This is actually something I would definitely look into, because it really opens your eyes to what exactly we're doing to our planet, and how many species across the globe are currently endangered. With that being said, can't we just plant more of these herbs when a species is running low? Not exactly. Certain herbs can take years to grow to maturity, including many of India's medicinal plants, which cannot regrow as quickly as we're using them. So we're harvesting, and these plants are not getting a chance to regrow. This means we're unable to just grow more of a plant. Add in the fact that some species habitats are being destroyed because humans, and you've got a recipe for horticultural disaster. The entire ecosystem is harmed by overharvesting, and the loss of a forest disrupts the balance of hundreds of other species, including animals and insects. The loss of the ecosystem means the loss of income and the livelihood of growers and collectors. So we're going back to the three bottom line, right? Where it's cyclical. Excuse me. Next slide, please. Another Ayurvedic herb that is severely threatened while demand continues to grow. It is threatened by irresponsible harvesting. It's called Guggulu or Google. Guggulu is a small bushy shrub found in India that is extremely detoxifying. It's very powerful, often used with other herbs, and is used to remove toxins that are deeply embedded in the tissues. Resin is harvested from the shrub, and in order to get as much as possible, sometimes chemicals are used, making it so that it can only be harvested one time. Sustainability is a super important issue for this plant, as it takes at least 8 years to be able to harvest. 8 years to be able to harvest this plant, and can only be tapped approximately once every 2 years. So it's really important that, and Banyan Botanicals, who I'll talk more about, is awesome in creating sustainable ways of harvesting Guggulu. Excuse me, next slide, please. So how have we moved towards sustainability? Through boots on the ground. Boots on the ground cultivation prevents overharvesting and builds respect for the life of the plants that we collect. So these companies, certain companies are actually going into these regions and setting up programs with these farmer cooperatives, and really helping them as far as education and setting up a supply chain where most of it is happening in that region and then being sent directly to us. Through working with farming cooperatives and using sustainable techniques. So pruning and seed planting, establishing those sustainable techniques, and leaving them with this self-sustaining program. Plants can continue to be harvested when appropriate, while the community is making an effort to nourish the ecosystem because they're more understanding of what's going on. Next slide, please. So we can't talk sustainability in the herb and spice world without discussing supply chain. So this is going hand in hand with social responsibility and fair trade practices. So many throughout history have been oppressed and cheated by the colonial established spice trade with its archaic standards of using multi-sourced, untraceable spices, providing those who harvested them as little as possible. Respect for stakeholders, so collectors, workers, consumers, and cooperation between companies and these individuals is vital to creating a better product, while also helping these communities address issues like poverty, education, living and healthcare standards, financial security. Fair trade means better herbs and spices, meaning there is the potential to result in a number of different benefits, including economic, social, and environmental stability. So there's so much riding on this. By purchasing fair trade spices, we can create capital that can be invested in a better system of production, through enriching the producers in the developing world. This creates a cycle of positive reinforcement that creates stronger ties between farmers and first world consumers. Those who are paid fairly can afford to be more eco-conscious. Buying directly from the producer might not be practical for everyone, but buying fair trade and organic should be within everyone's grasp. And next slide, please. So let's support companies whose supply chain enhances these ecosystems rather than destroy them, at the same time providing higher quality products for the consumer. Wow, this is everything. It's easier than you think, and it's super powerful. It's super powerful. The decisions that we make on our end can pretty much make it or break it. Next slide, please. So Burlap and Barrel is huge for me. This is a company that sources sustainable spices, and they're incredible. I didn't know what real pepper tasted like or real turmeric tasted like until I tasted these spices. It's truly incredible, the product that they've been able to produce simply by getting their boots on the ground and working with these people in these regions. So just to read from the slide, this is from Burlap and Barrel. Most of spice supply chains are completely opaque. Where the spices come from, who grew them, and how they were grown is usually a mystery. That's not by accident. The systems we live with today are legacies of the colonial spice trade, which was designed to disenfranchise farmers and shortchange consumers. We're replacing these broken systems with equitable sourcing, direct supply chains, and mutually supportive relationships with our partner farms. Keyword being replacing broken systems. This is pretty much what we're doing throughout the entire world currently. We are currently trying to replace broken systems, and that absolutely goes for sustainable harvesting as well. So let's see, next slide, please. So let's talk single origin. Single origin means spices which are capable of being traced back to a single area of production. Even a single farm or cooperative of farmers, it can be traced back to them as well. The environment where they're grown creates a unique set of flavors and smell to the spice, similar to how grapes from France produce wines that different from grapes from Argentina. So you can actually taste the difference depending on where they're coming from, which is really incredible. Simply put, if you want the best tasting spices and herbs, and most likely fair trade, buy single origin. By doing so, we are respecting the traditions and cultures of the collectors, workers, and communities. Trusting the earth beneath their feet, the hands that pick the herbs, their expression of passion bottled and sent to your doorstep. You can close your eyes and taste the love, like my black pepper from Zanzibar, which is stunning. It actually won a couple of awards. When it comes to Ayurvedic herbs, they are so multidimensional that you're most likely not just going to taste the love, but also feel and smell it. And that's sort of the point of Ayurvedic herbs, isn't it? They're just so wonderful. Next slide, please. So speaking of feeling the love, I cannot miss mentioning certain companies and task forces that have gone above and beyond in cultivating an environment surrounding sustainability and will completely put the world of herbs and spices on its butt. They're awesome. They've made it their mission to build consciousness in this space and educate the public on social responsibility. I highly encourage you to look into any of these and all of these. They've helped me immensely in this project and my research. There's just so much good information out there and so many people that are willing to take the time and share it with you. So a few of these being Banyan Botanicals, burlap and barrel, which I mentioned both of those. Fair Wild is excellent. They usually have a little stamp on, they'll have a stamp on certain herbs or certain spices that say Fair Wild. Traffic, Sites, Ayush Herbs, Nature Connect India, and Foodprint. And again, a lot of these people are boots in the ground in India, in different regions, really helping out. Next slide, please. So how to create awareness, right? So this is really important. This is me asking you to help me and help the world create awareness and to educate yourselves. If I show you what to look for, there should be nothing stopping you. And these spices and herbs will change your life, I swear, because they've changed mine. Let's save ourselves by saving the planet. We cannot continue to heal our bodies through Ayurveda if the potent herbs, the ancient medicine that is the core of its practice, are no longer available to us. We will no longer have the delicious spices we need if we're not supporting the farmers who are trying to support the environment in which they grow. So this is per Banyan Botanicals. They had a perfectly good list set up, so I didn't want to alter that. So this is something you can talk to your friends and family about when you guys are talking about cooking or purchasing herbs, especially when international agriculture is involved. So look for organic vegetables. Look for organic herbs. For cultivated varieties, organic is one of the first qualities to look for when checking the sustainability of a product. Fairly traded herbs and spices, which we already talked about. The concept addresses the human sustainability of a product. Fairly trade means the people involved in growing, harvesting, and processing the herbs were paid a fair living wage. Next slide, please. So sites, specific to endangered plant species, this certification ensures the plant was not exploited in the way it was harvested, collected, or traded. This is great. And it's something that Banyan, one of their herbs is certified in this. And some of the first available in the United States. Fair Wild, I talked about this. This organization ensures that wild collected products were harvested and gathered in a sustainable, ethical manner. And they have so much products going on, so many things going on and projects going on. I highly recommend looking into them as well. Great when it comes to educating the public. Next slide, please. Okay, so another thing you can look for are investigating local alternatives. Are there local alternatives to these endangered species that we shouldn't be, because they're endangered, we shouldn't be actively purchasing them? Once there are sustainable options as far as harvesting, then we can start to get back into that. But let's look at local alternatives. Let's look at Western herbs, right? So that takes some research, but it's absolutely worth it. And we also don't have the air traffic, and all of that. So let's see. So if you don't have time to research the sourcing of all your herbs, find a supplier you trust to do the background check for you. There's a couple of places in Milwaukee, at least. I have a couple of friends that I know. I have a friend who's a nutritionist in New York who I can reach out to. So have people in your life that can help you with this sort of thing. Don't think you have to go into it researching by yourself. It's totally fine. Next slide, please. Can we rebuild our relationship with Mother Earth? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not too late to humble ourselves to her and express gratitude by way of respect. Respect for the earth. Respect for all people of the earth. Respect for ourselves. We need to wake up to the fact that we are all one. We're all one, one entity, learning to thrive and not struggling to survive, right? So we can absolutely rebuild our relationship with her. Thank you. That's all I've got for you today. Thank you so much for listening.
Hi, I'm Sidney Yildirim. I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about herbs today and the art of Ayurveda. Next slide, please. So all things in Ayurveda essentially boil down to the doshas, and the doshas are your elemental makeup. Each person is different, and in order to take herbs the right and effective way, we have to treat people as such. So there's Vata, Pitta, Kapha. They have different qualities. Vata is dry, light, cold, rough, subtle, mobile, and clear. Pitta is sharp, hot, oily, light, mobile, and liquid. And then we have Kapha, which is cool, heavy, dense, cloudy, dull, and oily. Next slide, please. So what to look for in a Vata? Their physical qualities are dry, brittle skin, lips, hair, nails. They have kind of a lanky physique. They're a little more underweight. They have cold, poor circulation, constipation, belching, gaseous, sensitive digestion, and they have smaller features, small nose, eyes, lips, and they are prone to having pain throughout their body and stiff muscles. And some characteristics to look for is insomnia, fearful dreams, light sleepers. They tend to be more spacey or insecure and have difficulty remembering things. They're also creative, lively conversationalists, active, and energetic. They're prone to anxiety, fidgety, tremors, and nervousness. Next slide, please. So Pitta's qualities, they have sharp gaze, deep-set eyes, medium-sized nose and lips, medium build, toned, muscular build. They have more of an angular face, intensity is seen, rosy complexion, and prone to rashes. They have premature grayness, and male part pattern baldness is a part of the result of their fire going out because they are the fire element. Some characteristics, they have heartburn, acid reflux, intense hunger, diarrhea, inflammation, irritability, anger, jealousy, and judgmental, acne, hot flashes, acute sensation throughout the body, excessive sweating, and body odor. They're also passionate, leaders, and sharp intellect. Next slide. And lastly, we have Kapha. So their physical qualities, their face is more round, soft, and often smooth, revealing their gentle nature. They have large eyes, nose, lips. They have pale complexion. Their hair is full, thick, lustrous. Bones are thick and shorter with a larger circumference. They're a bit more stocky in their body shape. Some characteristics they have are nauseous, excessive salivation, indigestion, slow metabolism, diabetes, and hold on to water. Accumulation of mucus, congestion, swollen lymph, sweaty, high cholesterol, and they have a tendency towards excessive sleep, laziness, and depression. They also have really good long-term memory. They're not easily angered, and they're trustworthy. Next slide, please. So here's some herbs for the mind and the nervous system. Next slide. So we have nervine tonics, and what they pretty much do is they tonify the body and they strengthen and restore a worn down nervous system, depleted from long periods of stress, lack of sleep, and drug and alcohol abuse. They improve the mind and body's response to stress. They relieve muscle tension, and you should not take it if there's ama, which is toxins in the body, because it'll just accumulate more of that. So there's some suggestions: ashwagandha, gotu-kola, lavender, lemon balm, milky oats, skullcap, St. John's wort, and wood betony. Next slide. The next category is nervine relaxants, and they are an alternative to sleep tranquilizers and sedatives. They are really good for the nervous system, and they can calm and sedate the nervous system as well. They treat the physical symptoms that come from stress and have mixed carminative and bitter actions to assist in digestion. Some examples are ashwagandha, blue I can't pronounce this one, catnip, chamomile, hawthorn flower, holy basil, lavender, lemon balm, mungwort, St. John's wort, and wood betony. So kind of similar to the last slide. Next slide, please. And then we have nervine hypnotics, which are a little bit stronger than nervine relaxants, gives a bit more of an oomph. Their remedies are used in acute situations of pain, insomnia, drug withdrawal, or more extreme cases of anxiety, panic attacks, and have a stronger level of sedation than relaxants do. You gotta be careful with the dosage on this one because, like, again, all bodies are different. Some may need 5 droppers full, some may need 1, but it can also have an opposite effect on some bodies and stimulate rather than sedate. So some examples are California poppy, hops, kava kava, skullcap, and wild lettuce. Next slide, please. Then we have nervine stimulants, which is basically what it sounds. It just stimulates the body a little bit. And they have circulatory stimulant actions, so they elevate the heart rate, shortness of breath, and affect appetite and digestion. So they don't want to be taken on a regular basis. So examples are coffee, nutmeg, sassafras, and schizandra. Next slide. And last we have adaptogens. Adaptogens, they're another group of herbs that help manage stress response. They have long-lasting effects where the nervines, they're kind of more of a short-term basis. They restore overall balance, improve focus, support immune system functions, and adapt to stressful situations by circulating an overactive adrenal response. For it to be an adaptogenic, it must be safe, non-toxic, and non-habit forming, even if taken for a long period of time. Some examples are schizandra, tulsi, ginseng, bacopa, shatavari, goji berry, licorice, and turmeric. Next slide. All right, so here we have some herbs for Vata, and you can kind of go back to the previous slides and evaluate if Vata sounds like what you might be, and maybe try out some of these herbs. Next slide. So first we have ashwagandha, and it is an Ayurvedic herb that helps the body cope with stress. It can be translated to the smell of a horse, which means it imparts vigor and the strength of a stallion, pretty much. It strengthens the immune system, calms the nervous system, improves memory and ability to focus. It's good for fatigue, difficulty concentrating, or feelings of ungroundedness. It can be helpful for insomnia, anxiety, or depression. Next slide. Next is shatavari, and it can rejuvenate, nourish, and balance the body of a Vata dosha and soothe anger and irritability. It reduces mood swings, helps produce breast milk, can cure gastric problems, supports respiratory system. It acts as a diuretic, demulcent, calming virya, which means energy, and it has adaptogenic properties as well. Next slide. Next is tulsi, and it is known as a sattvic herb, which is basically holy and light, and tulsi translates to holy basil. It's really a spiritual herb, and in the Vedas it was called the most sacred herb on the planet. It increases ojas, which is vitality, and prana, which is breath. It lightens the mind and brings clarity, even reverses the effects of stress, and supports the body's ability to rejuvenate. Next slide. Next is bala, which means strength, and it's stimulating, helps vata disorders. It has an affinity for the muscles, builds tone, and increases strength, and reduces muscle cramping. It can also reduce stress, creates a state of balance, and increase sexual potency, and treats low libido. Next slide, please. All right, now on to pitta. Some herbs for pitta. You want to think about cooling, soothing, and calming that alleviate inflammation while also detoxifying. Next slide. So first we have marshmallow, and it relieves coughs, improves dry mouth, saliva production, protects against ulcers, soothes skin irritation, and overall skin health. It can act as a pain reliever for joint pain caused by inflammation, which is good because pitta is all about inflammation. It aids in digestion, helps diarrhea, repair gut lining, support heart health, and bacterial infections. Next slide, please. All right, next is Bringraj. It is good. It treats skin disease also. It fights fungus and skin infections. It's good for stomach cramping, vomiting, and fever. And it energizes your brain by supplying oxygen and increasing circulation, which leaves a calming effect in your mind and body. Next slide, please. Okay. Next is Gaduchi, and it's referred to as a heavenly elixir and nectar of life. It's bitter and astringent with special actions to destroy toxins internally and externally. It promotes life and longevity, increases strength, aphrodisiac. It's a blood cleanser, digestive aid, alleviates skin disorders, and acts as an adaptogen. It can also improve the function of the liver and reverse any damage related to alcoholism. Next slide, please. Okay, the last is Brahmi. So this is essentially Pitta's BFF. It's really good for all Pitta disorders. It is a nerve sedative and stimulant. It really enhances memory and just good for learning. Children can take it, and it can really kind of help children with hyperactivity and ADHD kind of calm down a little bit and focus. Next slide, please. Okay, and onto kapha. You want to think about light, warming, and uplifting herbs because they are the heaviest of all the doshas. Next slide. All right, so first is chitrak. It reduces blood cholesterol, thereby aiding in weight loss, which most kaphas kind of need. It improves digestive system, prevents the deposition of fatty substances in arteries, and maintains blood flow. It can manage various skin diseases such as acne, sores, dermatitis, and it can accelerate wound healing and the fomentation of new skin cells. Next slide. Okay, next is moringa, which is protecting and nourishing to the skin and hair. It's effective in preventing edema. It can treat mood disorders such as depression, which kaphas are prone to. It's used as an antidepressant and is a valuable remedy for treating nervous system disorders and enhanced memory. Next slide, please. Okay, and then we have fenugreek, which lowers blood sugar, boosts testosterone, lowers inflammation, and supports functions of the liver. It reduces the risk for cancer and diabetes, obesity, heart condition, and a list of other ones. It suppresses appetite and increases feelings of fullness. It improves fat metabolism and acts as a digestive aid. Next slide, please. Okay, and then last we have ginger. So ginger is the universal medicine. It's a very spiritual and sattvic plant. Goes beyond healing modalities that is infused with lightness, clarity, compassion, and wisdom. It's warming and drying, which makes it perfect for kapha because they are very heavy and oily. So, but long-term effects can be can be nourishing and cooling to the dhatus, which are the tissues. It supports Agni, which is our digestive fire, and it sets off a domino effect of benefits. It can burn through ama, and prevent new accumulation of ama. It also supports healthy joints, absorb and assimilate nutrients from food, and it has an affinity for the lungs, which clearing excess phlegm and allowing for comfortable breathing. It's also good for depression, anxiety, and brain aging. Next slide, please. Okay, and here I have some recipes. I'm not going to talk about all of them for the sake of time. So if you want to take a screenshot or have any questions, just let me know. Next slide, please. So here are lunar and solar infused oils. They're pretty simple to make. It's basically just about leaving them out in either the sun or the moon to get infused with all those good healing properties they have to offer. Next slide. Okay, next is medicinal syrups. And Also pretty simple to make. Next slide, please. All right, next is medicinal oil, which is pretty similar to the slide above. Next slide. Okay, and then we have an herbal salve, which is basically just a cream used topically, and you still get all the really good benefits from the herbs. Next slide. Okay, herbal tincture. This is my jam right here, and I'll be showing you how to make one in just a little bit. So we can talk more about that then. Next slide. All right, also herbal pills, which I thought would be a lot harder to make, but after learning how to do it, it's not too shabby. Next slide. Okay, and here's a recipe for cold care capsules, which can be really beneficial in a time right now where we're all getting sick of all different kinds. Next slide, please. Okay, and here's a fire cider, which just helps to keep your body healthy in the winter and really help to keep the cold and flu at bay. Next slide. Okay, this is a brain tonic tincture, which does pretty much what it says, just helps the brain focus and improves memory a little bit. Next slide. Okay, this is an echinacea spray for sore throat. Next slide, please. And adrenal tonic tincture, which can really help fight frequent feelings of exhaustion and just overall sad feelings, depressed feelings, all that good stuff. Next slide, please. Okay, this is a mullein clover salve, and it can treat glandular congestion and swelling. Next slide. Okay, here's a rejuvenative tonic, which does what it says. Just rejuvenates a little bit, gives the body a pick-me-up. Next slide. All right, and I think this is the last slide, the St. John's wort tincture. And this is really good for seasonal affective disorder, which leading into winter, many people get. So this can help fight some of those feelings. Next slide. Or is there a next slide? Okay, I don't think so. All right, so now I'm going to show you how to make a tincture. So I'm going to bring you to my kitchen. There might be a child in the background, so I'm sorry about that. Okay. So, all right, let's begin. So to make a tincture, it's not too complicated. You just need a couple things, and I'm sure aside from the herbs, most people will have at their house. So you need a mason jar. I just picked a little guy because I don't have enough herbs to make a big one for two. You need alcohol, which I'm sure people have. But so the kind of alcohol you want to use should be 80 to 100 proof. So kind of just some gross cheap alcohol will do. And let's see, of course you need your herbs and a cheesecloth to strain them when you're all done. Okay. So an herbal tincture is essentially just an alcohol extract, and you can use glycerin, but with alcohol it's just a little bit, it lasts longer, it's a little more effective because the alcohol just extracts the medicinal properties from the herb. So we're going to make a valerian tincture. So to start, open up this bad boy, and you want to fill it about 3/4 of the way full. And you want to leave a little bit of room because you're going to be shaking it daily to just make sure the herbs aren't settling. And valerian definitely has a very strong smell. Pretty stinky feet-like. Okay, that worked out perfect. All right, next you want to grab your handy dandy alcohol. Okay, and you want to fill this up just about an inch above the herbs. That looks about good. Maybe a little bit more. There we go. Okay. Also something, there's a lot of smells going on. Okay, another really important thing to do is label and date your tincture. If you're making a couple, it's important to label. You're going to forget which one is which. And date it so you know when it can be done by. You want to leave it in the jar for a month to 6 weeks, shaking it daily. And you also want to place it in a cool, dry place. I'm going to pour in a little bit more. All right. Okay, so now I don't have I'm going to let this tincture sit, so I'm just going to be using something different to show you how to kind of, I lost my words, how to strain it and bottle it up. So you got your cheesecloth, and then you want to use like a pitcher or a cup or anything big enough to kind of catch the liquid. Let's take the cheesecloth, put it in. Let me make sure you can see what I'm doing. Okay, you're going to dump the extract in here. Get all those herbs out. Okay, isn't it beautiful? Okay, and then just squeeze out any remaining liquid. Okay. And you can use anything to strain it. If you're doing it at home, you can use like a coffee filter or tea filter, whatever you have works. And next, you got your little tincture bottles. And put that in there and then just pour away. This is not the cleanest process. Okay, and there you have it. And then, of course, there's a lot left over. You can save it, or if you have more bottles, just put it in there. But if you're using it for yourself, you can just kind of keep it in a cup and take a dropper full of it. The recommended dose is 2 dropperfuls twice daily. But it is different for everyone. Like a Vata person who's smaller in their nature, they might need less. So if you're a Vata, you want to start out a little slower. Kapha, go ahead and do the 2 droppers twice daily. And so the valerian tincture is really good to take for sleep, insomnia, anxiety. There's actually a lot of benefits to valerian. Let's see. So if you want to take this for sleep, just take it about 20 minutes before bedtime. There's actually 2 different ways. I'm sure there's more than 2, but 2 ways that I take it. It can be a kind of, if you don't like the taste of alcohol like myself, you can get a shot glass and just put a full dropper in it and put some water or juice in there and just slam it down. Or if you want more of an immediate effect, like you're trying to get to sleep, or if you're having like a panic attack, this would be the time you take the dropper full under your tongue and you let it sit there for a few seconds and then swallow. So let's see. Putting it under your tongue, it absorbs much more rapid and it goes directly into your bloodstream. So that's kind of how it works. But all right. That's about all I got. Thanks for sharing this time with me and listening, and have a good one.
Okay. I think we are live. So, my name is Terri. So I'm an Ayurvedic Osteology student at the Institute of Beauty and Wellness in Milwaukee. So today I'm going to be sharing a presentation about the 3 pillars of health in Ayurveda. So for a little bit of a background on Ayurveda, it's a complete... Probably turn the sound off, my bad. So Ayurveda is a complete medical system originating in ancient India. The word Ayurveda means the knowledge or science of life in Sanskrit, which is what Ayurveda is mainly written in. So nearly everyone nowadays knows what yoga is, but doesn't really know the bigger picture of what grew alongside it, which is this complete medical system. So it's holistic and also a spiritual system. So it's been practiced for over 5,000 years and is traditionally passed down in person through conversation. So broadly speaking, Ayurveda heals from the root of the problem before symptoms escalate and practices not waiting until you're already sick to get healthy. So we've done a really good job in the West at extending human lifespan, but we need to do a better job at expanding the quality of life. That being said, this practice is not about wanting to live for forever, but it's more about being well enough to enjoy it while you are here. So before I change to the next slide, the picture on the left of this slide is of the god Dhanvantari. So he's known in Hindu mythology as being the physician of the gods and is worshipped to promote healing and prana. Prana means life force energy, so it's like what gives us life. So something I like about this god is that you can kind of notice that the features are pretty neutral looking, so they're both masculine and feminine. So besides in Hinduism, Dhanvantari is also attributed to Ayurveda in that he is said to have originated the practice of it. So go ahead and switch to the next slide, please. Okay, so starting off, with the 5 elements, so a big part of Ayurveda is the attributes and adjectives given to things and focusing on subtle things that we usually just look past. So some of the categories of the attributes are the 5 elements, the 3 doshas, which are called Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, the gunas, and masculine or feminine energy. So one of the other biggest parts of Ayurveda are diet, circadian rhythm, self-discipline, herbalism, pranayama, which is breathing techniques, choosing quality over quantity, and healing using opposite qualities to reduce imbalances. So a quick overview of the 5 elements. So they are ether, air, fire, water, and earth. Ether is described as clear, light, subtle, soft, and immeasurable. Air is mobile, dry, light, cold, rough, and subtle. Fire is hot, sharp, light, dry, and subtle. Water is cool, liquid, dull, soft, oily, slimy. And then lastly, earth is heavy, static, dense, hard, and gross. So like gross as in quantity gross. So next slide, please. So the reason I just explained everything to do with the 5 elements is because the next thing I'm going to explain is the doshas. So the doshas are made up of different parts of the 5 elements. So vata means that which moves things, and it's made up of air and ether. So vata is described as being light, cold, dry, mobile, subtle, and rough, just like air and ether are. The second dosha is going to be pitta, so that's ruled by fire and air, and it means that which digests things. So fire in Sanskrit is called Agni, and this is what your digestive system is referred to as. So its other attributes are hot, light, slightly oily, unstable, and sharp. So third is going to be kapha, so that's ruled by earth and water. It's the dosha that gives you structure and stabilizes. So that's described as heavy, cold, moist, static, smooth, and soft. So the 3 doshas are used to describe things, so like food, time, symptoms, people, parts of the body, and a lot of other things. So as you can see in the bottom of the slide, these are all the sub-doshas, so it's basically like a subcategory of each of the doshas and then their correlation to different parts of the body. So it kind of makes sense. Most of them, you can kind of see why they belong to certain parts of the body that they do. Like pitta is like a really intense dosha, so it makes sense that it's correlated to your heart and your eyes. Next slide, please. So next after the doshas is going to be the gunas and masculine and feminine energy. So these were really interesting to me because it's basically just different types of energy that we don't really talk about a lot. So the three gunas are different types of energy and consciousness, like I was saying. So sattvic energy means the pure essence of light, right actions, and spiritual purpose. So it's holy, sacred energy. So a good way to like understand what I mean by that is kind of like when you wake up and it's super early in the morning. If there's like still dew on the ground, it's kind of like silent, like the earth still hasn't fully woken up yet. That's kind of the sattvic energy that I'm talking about. So next after that, we have rajasic energy. So that has to do more with movement, change, and excitability. So this is kind of more like the energy in the middle of the day, so the busiest part of your day. You might be like stuck in rush hour traffic. The sun is the brightest and the fullest. It's kind of like fueling the energy for that busy part of the day. And then tamasic energy is kind of similar to kapha in some of its attributes because it's heavy and dense. And it's tied to things like lethargy, procrastination, and sleep. So some of the attributes can be kind of like negative with this one, but I still think it's important to include in your day because I like to kind of view it as what helps you like disassociate from the day and kind of like wind down. So it helps ease you into the kapha time of day, which is 6 to 10 p.m. So in a perfect world, you want to be like going to bed around that time. So it kind of helps you get in the mood for your sleep schedule. So then going into masculine or feminine energy, the goddess correlated to feminine energy is Shakti, who is pictured on the left, and then the moon is also feminine. Shiva is the god of masculine energy, and then the sun is also considered to be masculine. So those two gods are the ones that usually people worship or meditate on to bring balance to those types of energies. So next slide, please. So next, going back to Sanskrit. So the knowledge of Ayurveda came from 4 ancient scriptures called the Vedas: the Rig Veda, the Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Atharva Veda. All of these are written in Sanskrit. It's one of the oldest languages in the world. The word Sanskrit itself means refined or well made, and it is a completely phonetic language, meaning that the letters are directly correlated to sounds that use different parts of your tongue and your throat. So it can't always be directly translated to English, only transliterated. So what that means is sometimes it takes like a whole sentence or a story a little bit to describe what they mean. So that being said, Sanskrit's pretty easy all in all to understand, and most words you can just sound out. Next slide. So going into the first pillar of health, which is going to be proper diet and digestion. Ayurveda truly emphasizes that food is medicine and should be treated as so. Nearly all disease begins in the digestive system, and there is a high cost of cheap food. So the digestive system in Sanskrit is called Mahavaha Srotas. So the word Srotas basically just means a channel in your body. So just like how we have systems in Western medicine, Ayurveda has channels instead that describe like different areas of the body. So your digestion begins in the mouth through your Bodhika Kapha subdosha, where your saliva begins the breakdown of food. Then it moves onto your stomach into your Kletika Kapha subdosha, which is located in your upper stomach. So that just continues to break down your food. Kapha, if you remember, is described as being slimy and unctuous in nature, so this is why it takes form as saliva and then the mucus lining in your stomach. So if you notice on the little diagram on the right, how small your stomach actually is. A lot of people don't really realize how small it is because of how much we eat in the U.S. So portion size is a really important thing, and an easy way you can improve your digestive system. So your average meal, kind of like broadly speaking, should be about the size of your two fists put together. So like this would be how my stomach is sized. Like in a perfect world, you want it to be around the same, something around that nature. So the next part of your digestion is going to be your small intestine. So this is where your pitta subdosha resides. So this is between the stomach and the large intestine, and this part of your digestive system is referred to as your digestive fire, so your Agni in Sanskrit. So this is like the really important part. This is basically what's digesting all of your food. So after that, Samana Vayu and Apana Vayu are the last two subdoshas in this channel of the body. So Samana is the upward moving air that strokes your digestive fire, and then Apana is the downward motion controlling waste. So it's important to have gaps in between eating, about like 3 hours, just so you're not smothering this fire that I'm talking about. So lastly, Ama is the word for toxins. So that means toxic waste that comes from food not being fully digested or absorbed. Next slide, please. So next, after that, since your digestive system is referred to as a fire, there's good ways to kind of like warm up your Bodhika Kapha or your Agni. So this can begin as early in the morning as when you're doing your oral care routine. So starting off by scraping your tongue with a copper tongue scraper. You're clearing off any toxins or ama that built up from the night before, and you're also stimulating your salivary glands and your taste buds. So after flossing, brushing, and if you want to use like a natural mouthwash, another good thing you can do is oil pull. So oil pulling causes you to pre-digest oil as you swish it, which helps warm up your Agni for the day. So right before you're going to enjoy a meal, you can also chew on sesame seeds, just like a spoonful of them, which is said to keep your gum tissue healthy and strong, while also stimulating your digestive fire. Another thing you can do is chew on a slice of ginger, so that will kind of like warm up your digestive system also. And that's considered to be a really sattvic herb, so like a really sacred, holy herb. And then next slide. So the next slide kind of goes into like quality of food and how you're making it. So food, just like every other living thing, should have prana, which is life force energy. The quality and freshness of food matters. So try to think of the last time you actually picked a fruit or vegetable like straight off of a plant and ate it. Odds are not a lot of us get the luxury of doing that often. And I don't know about you, but I always think it tastes a lot better and makes you feel a lot better when it's so fresh like that. So it's really full of prana. So it's kind of a shame that we have such harsh winters here because we don't really get access to like super fresh food like that at all seasons of the year. So whenever you can, definitely make a point to favor to that and avoid frozen foods, leftovers, processed fast food, and packaged canned food as much as you can. So going more into how you're preparing your food, I think it's really an art form, cooking and preparing food. So if you have cooked if you have cooked, you can really notice that it's a pretty therapeutic thing. It's pretty like meditative and calming. It's kind of relaxing almost. You can really like enjoy it. So statistically, Americans spend less time preparing food than almost any other part in the world. So cooking at home can make a really big difference in your health because you have the ability to actually control the quality and the amount of each ingredient going into whatever you're eating. So a big thing is when you're going out to eat is the oil that they're using. Even if the food is pretty high quality, it's usually pretty cheap oil. So if you're going to splurge on something at home, I definitely recommend getting a high quality oil. Another really good option is cooking with ghee, because it's very sattvic and oily, so it really nourishes your joints, digestive system, and kind of just every part of your body. Ghee is just clarified butter. So another reason quality of food matters so much is there are more neural pathways, which are known as nadis in Sanskrit, that are running from your gut to your brain than any other organ in your body. So this is probably why people say listen to your gut, because it really is intelligent. There's a lot of connections to your brain, like I was saying. So it's really, as much as you can optimize your digestive system, the better. Your microbiome is another really important thing to understand. It's basically just all the good and bad bacteria of your gut. So that really needs to be nourished and fed. Um, and then after that, what you do, where you are, and how you feel when you're eating is also very important for proper digestion. So your relationship to food is relevant, and before you can improve on it, you have to observe what it's like. So a couple of things you can ask yourself is to think about how your stomach feels when you're anxious, angry, or depressed and you eat food, or when you're late for work, eating and kind of driving your car and not really paying attention to like the actual meal you're eating. And then think of how you feel when you're eating and you're calm, content. Maybe you're like eating dinner with your family or your friends. You feel really grounded. You can probably digest your food a lot better. Another thing besides that is asking, do you dedicate the time to enjoy and actually taste your food? Because that has a lot to do with whether or not you're actually feeling satisfied after you eat, probably. So after you eat, do you usually crave something sweet or like salty? If you do, you might be missing out on one of the 6 tastes of Ayurveda. So a good way to kind of help with your cravings is to try and incorporate as many of these tastes into every meal that you eat as possible. So the 6 tastes are pungent, which is spicy, and that's connected to the stomach and heart. The next one is bitter. After that, we have astringent, so that's kind of like drying foods. That's connected to your colon. Sweet foods are connected to your thyroid and the top of your lungs. Sour is middle and lower parts of your lungs, and then salty is your kidneys. So yeah. Next slide, please. So this part is kind of going into when you eat now. So circadian rhythm, like I was saying, is really important. So not only just daily circadian rhythm, but also seasonal. So when you eat is just as, if not more important than what you eat. An imbalanced circadian rhythm is described as the times of the day when you should be eating and when you should be fasting are out of balance. So if you notice, the word breakfast is literally breaks down to like breaking your fast. So this means that you should have been fasting the night before while you were sleeping. And that's another reason why it's a really good practice to have to like stop eating right before you go to sleep, because you're kind of tricking your body into thinking it should be awake and digesting things instead of kind of winding down to go to sleep. So ideally you want to stop eating at least 3 hours before you go to sleep, like I was saying, because your body does a lot while you're asleep. It cleans all of your organs and your brain. So when your body's kind of like trying to digest things and then magically switch into its mechanism for like cleansing your body and all that and restoring your body while you sleep, it kind of gets messy. So this is basically what intermittent fasting is. That's like a really popular thing that people are talking about. So your biggest meals of the day you want to have during lunch and breakfast time, because your digestive fire is the strongest. So that usually falls along Pitta time of day, which is 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So going into seasonal eating, it's really important to eat what's actually in season. One easy way to do that is to shop at farmers markets or buy local produce whenever possible. Kind of takes the work out of figuring out what's in season, because obviously they can't like grow what's not in season. So it's not like at a grocery store where you kind of have whatever kind of foods at your disposal. And then just going into the different seasons. So you obviously don't want to eat a bunch of like really hot foods all summer long. So eating cooling foods during pitta season, which is summer, warming heavy foods during vata season, so fall and winter, and then warming and lighter meals during kapha season, which is winter to spring. So another good reason to shop locally is because whatever produce you're buying has kind of like gone through the same hermetic stress that you have because you live in the same environment. So a good example is that is using local honey for people with allergies, because the bees that made that honey consume the pollen you live by, and it's kind of like a whole system going into that. So next, I'm going to go into the second pillar of sleep. So next slide. Okay, so sleep's really interesting and it's really important. So like I was saying, I feel like if you can balance your diet, your sleep, and then your self-discipline, you're pretty much a-okay for like health-wise. And Ayurveda can kind of go into things pretty deep and escalate. So I think those are like a good 3 things to start off working on. So going into sleep, try and think of some things that sleep doesn't really help, because I can't really think of many except for like concussions. I know you're not really supposed to sleep if you have one. But it really does help a lot. Like when you're sick, you usually want to sleep, kind of just lay around and rest. Even if you drink too much alcohol, like going to sleep will help that. So yeah, sleep is really important is where I was going with that. So circling back to circadian rhythm, we're kind of like the only species that defies our natural circadian rhythm. So we kind of have to like backtrack and fix that. So you need sufficient light or masculine energy from the sun during the daytime and dark motherly energy from the moon when it's nighttime. This means a few hours before bedtime. It's a really good idea to limit screen time and bright lights. Another idea that I really like is the importance of looking at a gentle light before you go to bed. So this means either watching the sunset or tritaka, which is candle gazing. Balancing light and dark is especially important for us living in Wisconsin because of the changes we go through in winter. Daylight savings time seems really subtle because it's only an hour change, but it actually can be really harsh on your sleep schedule because of the change in timing of light and dark. So this kind of messes with your brain thinking it needs to produce melatonin and how much it should produce. So another thing, going back to the gunas in Ayurveda, which is the 3 energies of consciousness, is you want to experience all 3 of these energies ideally throughout the day. So in the morning you want sattvic energy, middle of the day rajasic, and then at night you want to go into your tamasic energy. So going more into the mechanism of sleep, basically cortisol is what gives you energy throughout the day, and it can be thrown off pretty easily by having an overactive sympathetic nervous system for an extended period of time. This can also happen from trauma. So this means that your amygdala, which is basically your body's stress signals, are overactive and you're kind of stuck in like a fight or flight type reaction. So you want your energy levels to be the highest during the morning, during vata time of day, so 6 to 10 a.m., and the middle time of day during pitta time, which is 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., and then to start lowering around 3 or 4 hours before you sleep. So your melatonin levels rise around 3 hours before sleep usually, and this should land around kapha time, so that's 6 to 10 p.m. This part of the day is important to manage for good sleep because, kapha is ruled by earth and water, and those are described as heavy, dense, and cold. So it's a very loving time of the day that's good for being lazy and winding down from the day with your loved ones. The reason why Ayurveda really recommends you try and go to bed by at least 10 p.m. is because from 10 to 2 a.m. this is when pitta dosha accumulates and rajasic energy begins again. So this is why people can sometimes get like a second wind, if you've ever heard of that, from staying up past a certain time in the night. So another side of sleep is what your body temperature has to do with it. So your core body temperature actually needs to be lowered slightly, while your hands and feet need to be warmer in order to fall asleep. So this is interesting because if you've ever taken a bath and then taken a nap after, most people think it's because you were like warm and cozy in your bath, and it kind of made you tired, and that's what made you sleep. But it's actually the change in body temperature as you're cooling down that makes you sleep. So that's like another small thing you can kind of play around with if you're working on your sleep. So the last part of sleep that I want to go into is the importance of how long you sleep and what you're doing while you sleep. So in a perfect world, you want to get a minimum of 8 hours of sleep, maximum of about 10. And then you want to go through all the stages of sleep, so REM and not REM. And you also want to dream when you sleep if you can. So each stage has a different job to do in the body, whether it's how much brain activity is going on, cleaning parts of your body, changing your heart rate or respiration. So they're all pretty important. So if you don't dream a lot, one thing you can do is like wake up once in the middle of the night, and usually when you go back to sleep, that's when you actually will have a dream. Dreams are important, I think, because your subconscious, you should have a relationship of some sort with it, just because it can tell you a lot about what is going on with your brain when you're awake that you don't really realize. It's like more subtle, like I was saying. So if you have a violent dream, for example, that means you have a pitta dosha imbalance, and even if you don't necessarily feel angry right then and there or like at all while you're awake, I think that dream is kind of representing something you need to work on and acknowledge within yourself. So that being said, not all dreams make sense, and usually they really don't. So it's just something to take note of and decipher however it resonates with you. So next slide, please. So the last pillar of health is prajna paradha. So that's crimes against wisdom, lifestyle, and sexual responsibility. So you can have all the knowledge in the world of having a proper diet and sleep, but I think it's kind of useless until you add in this pillar, because it's really putting it to use. So it's essentially the self-discipline aspects of Ayurveda. There are 3 subcategories of crimes against wisdom: the misuse of intellect, misuse of the senses, and then seasonal variations. So the misuse of intellect basically means doing things too much, too little, incorrectly, or physically. So just as accumulating too much of something can bring disease, the oppression or abstinence of things can also bring symptoms of imbalance, and then eventually disease. So some examples are talking, thinking, reading, working, or exercising in excess or not enough. This includes working too many hours in a day, secluding yourself and not socializing, or going the other way with it, going out with friends every day instead of resting after a long day of work. Exercising is an interesting one because it's obviously really good for you, but there's a gray area you can kind of cross over into where it's too much and it's actually doing the opposite. So like a good example of this would be bodybuilders, where they do it in excess for looks rather than to be optimally healthy. So next, the incorrect use of intellect refers to gossiping, lying, inciting violence, or hateful ideas. So this means basically what you do when you're acting out of greed, anger, material attachment, jealousy, envy, ego, fear, grief, or delusion. So I think a really good example of this is kind of how social media has escalated so much and how it has such a big influence on us, especially since quarantine. It's kind of where we get all of our information right now. So like a lot of the times when you go on Twitter and you see kind of like millions of people going after one person, probably after something that started off as gossip, and it's kind of like going into that cancel culture. I think a lot of the people are just kind of hopping on the bandwagon and acting out of whether it's ego, fear. It's just a really good example of what can happen when you don't follow this pillar of health. So after that, after the incorrect use of it, we have misusing your intellect physically, which is suppressing your natural urges. So not going to the bathroom when you need to, smoking cigarettes, eating foods you know you have issues digesting or overeating, staying up late at night when you know you have to get up early the next day, kind of just stuff like that. So after that, the misuse of the senses is basically overstimulating your 10 matras, which is your 5 senses. So just like how you consume and digest food, you also consume and digest things through your 5 senses. So seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, and tasting things. So some examples are looking at your phone, computer, or TV screens for too long, violent horror movies, eating fast food or processed foods to the point where your taste buds are so overstimulated you don't really appreciate like the sweetness of honey or the sourness of an apple anymore because you're so overstimulated. Another example is like going out to a really loud club where it's loud, packed with people, it's just really chaotic. This can have a lasting effect on you. So another big part of the misuse of senses is going into sexual responsibility. So Ayurveda does not believe in suppressing a person's natural urges, so this includes sexual ones. In fact, it is said that the role of sex is to bring creativity to a relationship. That being said, there's a line to be aware of that you can definitely cross, and for each person it's different. So there's no such thing as a casual relationship because each relationship or experience becomes a part of your DNA through your Avalambaka Kapha subdosha. So this part of your brain is basically like the film tape of your life. So this holds the memories of all your relationships and experiences. It also governs attachment. The emotions that come along with these experiences, whether it's feeling respected, honored, pleased, aroused versus used, discarded, underappreciated, or casual, can have long-lasting effects on us. So it's important to recognize these emotions for what they are and heal from them if you need to, or you will continue to carry them around with you throughout your life and will inevitably end in disease or depletion of ojas, which is the Sanskrit word for vigor and vitality. So this has to do with your health, strength, longevity, immunity, emotional well-being, and your spiritual growth. And then the last section of Prajna Parada is the seasonal variations. And so this has to do with time, age, circadian rhythm, and all that. So this is kind of an interesting aspect because it really enforces why circadian rhythm is so important in Ayurveda. So seasonal variations include eating hot, spicy foods when pitta is peaking in summer, or going in a sauna during summer, drinking iced coffee during Vata season, so fall and winter is another example. So this is kind of going back into hermetic stress and why saunas and stuff like that is good. There's a line that you can cross, and it kind of does the opposite when you cross that line. So giving your body what it needs based on what part of life you're in. So your age is also important. That being said, as your body changes, you should nourish it however it needs. And another idea is kind of treating aging like a disease, like we treat any other disease. I think it's kind of unique in that we kind of treat aging as something that just happens to anybody and there's nothing we can do about it. But I don't really believe that everybody has to go at it like that. You know, it's not like we treat heart disease, diabetes, or cancer, which happen to a good amount of people, like we treat aging. So yeah, that was kind of the conclusion of all of that. And I think I skipped a slide, so sorry, you've been just looking at my sources like for that whole entire spiel. But that's all I have for you today, so thank you for listening.
Hello, my name is JaLicia Blakley. I'm currently a student at Ayurveda Esthetician program. Thank you, there we are. Okay. So my topic today that I'd like to talk to you guys about is Mind-Veda. So Ayurveda and the mind-body connection. Next slide, please. So whenever I talk to anybody about the program that I'm in or what my career path is, the first question is, what is Ayurveda? So Ayurveda literally translates to the science of life or the knowledge of life. And it is the mother of all holistic medicine because it is the oldest holistic medical system. It came from about 6,000 years ago, originating in ancient India. It is an all encompassing approach and uses preventative and balancing therapies. So, by assessing one's Ayurvedic constitution, it is the goal is to promote balance and longevity. This is the main goal, just to make sure that everything is balanced and in order to prevent disease. Next slide. So, Ayurveda defines health as the state of perfect balance between Vata, Pitta, Kapha, and its corresponding to one's individual Prakruti, and a balance of the tissues and the waste products. Now, a Prakruti is a person's constitution and their unique psychophysical makeup and the habits of the person. So that would be your Vata, Pitta, or Kapha. Next slide. So the Vata, Pitta, Kaphas, they're technically the three energies of Ayurveda. It's what everybody is grouped into, and it is based up of the 5 elements. Each dosha has a balance of these elements, and some of them are more prominent. Like the Vata is the dosha of space and air, and Pitta is the elements of fire and water, and Kapha being of water and earth. Now, all of these are made of all the other ones too, so they're all interchangeable. But so a dosha, your dosha is what you are, what your constitution is mentally and physically. And then when you're out of balance, you would have another dosha's imbalances coming into your dosha. Next slide, please. So today in 2020, society is dealing with a major crisis regarding mental health. And the World Health Organization says that 450 million people suffer from at least one mental illness. And that means 2/3 of people worldwide never seek help from a professional. And it's based off of stigma, neglect, and the social discrimination that prevents people from reaching out and seeing a professional. And with that, that means that mental and neurological illnesses are among the top causes of ill health and disabilities. Next slide. So, Ayurveda versus Western medicine. So, the Western medicine medical field, it tends to treat symptoms with instant relief. So, there's symptomatic treatment where the resources are meant to treat the symptoms that you have. Whereas Ayurveda medicine becomes is preventative, and it goes to treat the root cause of the problem instead of looking at one symptom and saying, okay, yeah, I'll just give you a Tylenol for your headache. Instead, Ayurveda would look at you and say, okay, you have a headache. Let's see what else is going on with you. Not just, okay, let's give you something. They want to see all the qualities of what's happening and figure out the root cause of that problem. And Ayurveda medicine is becoming increasingly popular with psychiatric patients. They're being used as a way to decrease drug dependency. So it's under the premise that physical and mental disorders are the after effect of an imbalance of the mind and the body. Next slide, please. So the mind-body connection, what is it? It's where you understand that what happens in your mind, you're going to see in the rest of your body, and what happens in your body has an effect on your mind. And in Ayurveda, Agni and digestion are the direct pathways to mental health. These are they cover all the sequences of chemical interaction, cellular transformation, assimilation of sensory perceptions, and mental and emotional experiences. Agni is the digestive fire that gets the body going and is basically the gatekeeper to your digestion. It decides on what gets absorbed and what gets eliminated, so it governs digestion. And if your Agni is not good and balanced, then your mental health is going to be hurting from that. So, an assimilation of your sensory perception, I found that interesting because it's the process of integrating outer objects like things and ideas and values into your consciousness. So that in your head is basically rooted in your digestive system. So there's a mind-body connection in everything that you do. And with the next slide, please. So in Western medicine, there's a term that's called the gut mind. Now, the gut mind, I've heard plenty of times growing up that the stomach is your second brain. And I always thought that was cool because 2 brains. That's cool. So the stomach is, it influences your neurotransmitters, your stress and anxiety, your mood and your behavior. And your brain influences your mobility, secretion, nutrient delivery, and microbial balance. So the gastrointestinal tract is sensitive to the mind and vice versa. A person's digestion can be the cause or effect of anxiety, stress, and depression. So for a really, really basic explanation of this, I can say that like stress. When you are stressed, there is a decrease in blood and oxygen to the stomach. It creates an imbalance in the gut bacteria and causes inflammation. Your digestion is suppressed and you can retain fluid, which in turn, you're not getting the nutrients you need in the way that you need it. Next slide, please. So Harvard has proven in multiple studies that digestive problems can be improved by managing stress and routine, which routine is the most key element in Ayurveda, I would say. Routine. Food is medicine. What you put into your body will reflect on the outside and in your mind. The body perceives distractions as stress, so mindful eating is also very, very important into helping make this balance between your gut and your mind. Next slide, please. So as before I mentioned the doshas, I just wanted to go over their qualities a little bit briefly so you get an understanding of who you might be dosha-wise and how these mental imbalances can be avoided. But first you need to know who and what that dosha is. So for a vata person, the elements of air and ether. So their qualities are going to be light, cool, dry, and mobile, air. And their body characteristics are going to be thinner. They're going to be thinner framed, have drier hair, skin, and nails, maybe fine lines and wrinkles. They're going to be longer people. They're going to be able to, or they have fluctuation in their weight. Personality-wise, these people are going to be they talk super fast. They're very excitable. They're very creative. They're your artists and your healers. They are these people that are so excited to tell you about this new diet that they're going on or this new spin cycle class that they're going to. So some of these challenges that these vata people can have physically, they can be prone to constipation. They can have bloating. They can be gassy. They tend to be really cold and have poor circulation, and they are more prone to aches and pains. So some of the emotional challenges that a vata might face is nervousness and anxiety, insomnia, and these qualities are balanced by heavy, moist, warm, and stable. So like heavy, you know that a vata, since they're all up here, they want to feel more grounded and centered. So you need to incorporate more things that way. Moist, the vata people, they're very dry. So of course they're going to be needing more moist in their lives. They need to be balanced. They need to balance that dry with moisture. They need to spend more time in the steam room. They need to live in moist, warm climates. Other might aggravate that vata even more. Next slide, please. Like I said before, some of the imbalances that a vata might experience are being anxious, be scatterbrained, have a sense of overwhelmed, insomnia, and emotional problems. The causes of these can be traveling, stress, grief, surgery, childbirth, late night activity, irregular schedules, suppression of natural urges. So that's your suppression to go to the bathroom, not going when you need to, not eating when you are hungry can really die down your digestive fire. And dry, rough, raw diet are the most common aggravating factors to a vata. Next slide, please. So for a pitta person, this is going to be your about middle person, but because they are of the fire element, they are going to be these passionate people, your leaders, your teachers. These are people who are going to be dynamic and they're going to be intense. These people are made up of fire and water, and so their qualities are light, hot, a little bit oily, and unstable. Their body characteristics are going to be moderate, reasonably stable, steady weight with a medium frame and good muscle structure. Their personalities are focused, energetic, and intense. I tend to think most people think that because of the fire, they must be really angry, but that is an pitta imbalance and not necessarily their nature. So some of the physical challenge that they could have, since they are that fire element, they're going to be prone to loose stools and heartburn and all that acidity in their system. So that can also come out as redness or like losing their hair, baldness. And they could also sweat profusely. They're the fire element. They're the ones who are going to be sweating profusely. They can be balanced by the cool, heavy, stable, and slightly dry qualities. So you're going to want to cool down a pitta. That is what you need to do for a pitta, is just cool them down. You need cooling foods, you need cooling drinks, but not ice cold. Ice water is not good for people in Ayurveda. Ayurveda says stay away from ice beverages. A pitta person would do great with pranayama and the cool breathing. And they need to be also stabilized, and they need to be humbled sometimes. That passion can really get them going. Next slide. So like I said, the pitta imbalances, they are the fire quality. They are prone to anger and irritability. They get jealous. They can be critical and judgmental. Some of those causes can be from confrontation. When they ingest salty, fried, spicy, and sour foods, this can really aggravate their digestion and give them more of that hyperacidity and inflammation. Caffeinated beverages and alcohol aggravates pitta the most, I believe. I know if you think of someone and they're one of those drinkers who immediately are prone to anger and get irritable, they may be a pitta. I've seen that happen quite a bit. Next slide. So the kaphas. So kapha people are made up of water and earth, so they're more sturdy. They are the tissues. They are the medium builds. They are the thick, luscious hair. You look at them and you're saying, oh my God, you are a nurturer. You are a mother-like figure. You are super loving, and some of the physical characteristics of them, like I said, are thick. They can be prone to being overweight, and some of their mental imbalances can be them being lethargic and depressed and over over what is the word I'm looking for? Over possessive. That's the word I'm looking for. Over possessive. Next slide, please. So some kapha imbalances can be lethargy, depression. They can be uninspired and have overattachment. Some of the physical ones that they could be mucousy and have allergies and congestion because they have all that thick unctuous to them. Some of the causes could be consuming kapha aggravating foods. So they have that thick, heavy already to them, and like aggravates like. So the dairy, fatty, oily food, cold drinks, frozen and salty foods, this is really going to add more to that thick, hard quality. And overeating and eating heavy meals in general will aggravate a kapha. Spending too much time in a cold and damp climate. You get a kapha person and you put them in Seattle, they're gonna be depressed. It's gonna be very easy for them to fall into that depression and that lethargy and be uninspired. Lack of physical activity and sleeping during the day. This is really gonna hit a kapha pretty hard. A kapha needs to be moving, and they also need to be inspired with variety. And also just get moving. Get them moving. It doesn't matter if it's exercising 1 day or 2 days or 3 days. Just getting them moving helps move that heaviness around, not necessarily their weight. I mean, like their insides, their unctuous, moving that, getting the lymph and the blood circulating. Next slide. So Ayurvedic management theory. So basically, Ayurveda says balance. Balance is key. Balance, you need to balance your body, mind, and spirit. And Ayurveda treatment starts with an internal purification process called panchakarma, and then a special diet, herbal remedies, massage therapy, yoga, and meditation. So panchakarma, panchakarma is a detoxification process to help eliminate toxins that are causing this imbalance. And but at the same time, they're also balancing the other doshas as well. So it's detoxifying and getting rid of all that ama or the toxins, but at the same time pacifying and balancing all the other doshas. So like increases like, so you want to do the opposites in diet, climate, and lifestyle. Next slide. Routine, routine, routine. Routine is so key and essential. Dinacharya is called a daily routine, and I've listed a basic daily routine that can be a good start for anybody trying to get rid of some of that ama. Is to rise, get up in the morning, wake up at the same time every morning, figure out, first if you figure out your dosha, you can figure out which time is best for you. Kaphas are better to wake up in earlier in the morning, and then it would be a pitta and a vata. So you would rise, say an affirmation in the morning, set the tone to the day. And then you would want to get up and clean your mouth, face, and eyes. Drink a glass of warm water to start your digestive system. Hopefully you'll eliminate first thing in the morning. That's something that, is not everybody, but the first thing you should do is, if you're not eliminating, is get into the practice of sitting down and trying, and your body will soon get into that routine, and hopefully you will start to eliminate first thing in the morning. Self-oil massage. It's good for all three doshas. For vatas, you want to do a more warming self-massage. It helps stimulate your circulation and get that lymph and blood flow moving. It also nourishes your skin and your tissues. And it's kind of a nice little self-help, like self-loving practice. And doing that every day is going to bring you a little bit more of groundedness. And yoga and meditation, I think everybody knows that that's profoundly positive way to start your day. Set an intention for the day, get your body moving. Your practice in yoga is unique to you, so however you feel you need to practice it, I think it's great that you do that in the morning. So routine is so important that I think that it's awesome that even in Ayurveda of how important it is in Western medicine, even in treatment facilities. You look at a rehab or a addiction treatment facility. Other than that, they have routine. They emphasize routine, and I think that is the foundation block to recovery. Is routine. You need to have a set time, know what you're going to do for the day, and have scheduled times to do these things. It's going to take away that that anxiety of, I have to do this, but I have no time for this. But if you have a schedule, it is a great foundation block for starting a detoxifying process. Next slide, please. So managing vata, I kind of already went over this, but I kind of wanted to reiterate that like increases like. So if you're cold and you have more cold, it's just going to make it worse. So you have to use your opposites. When you're managing a vata, you want to soothe the experiences by being heavy. So think grounding and nourishing. You want to do that meditation. You want to nourish your body with heavy warm foods. You want to give yourself that abhyanga with that thick heavy sesame oil. You want to really, really keep yourself grounded and warm. Vatas are very cold and have poor circulation, so moving around but not too much because they do have stiffer joints. You want to get that heavy blanket and keep yourself in a warmer climate and temperature. So oily. Vatas are dry. Again, abhyanga or the self-oleation is very, very good for you. And vatas can come off as rough. So you want to think of things that can help a vata stay graceful and fluid. Maybe taking a dance class. That might be that might be awesome for the fluidity. Add some fluid to your life. A nice, smooth, easygoing dance class. Stable, vatas need to be stabilized. They want to be up here and they're scatterbrained and they're all over the place. So they need to balance it out by picking times to just be stable and stress-free. Sometimes you can schedule your eating times and make sure you have enough time to sit and digest your food. And your digestion sees stress in a really profound way. So making eating stress-free is really going to be powerful. Next slide, please. Managing pitta is pretty easy. Stay cool, cool down, avoid those confrontations. You want to make sure if you're exercising, you're doing it early in the morning before it's really hot outside. You're going to do cooling breaths. You're going to do yoga specific to pittas. You're going to do the yoga that's not too too blood flowing. You don't want to get that blood flowing way too much because then you're going to increase that inflammation and redness. Pittas need to be cool. You can try swimming, avoiding being outside for too long periods of time. You're going to want to just eat, you can have cooling herbs. You can incorporate those into your diet, like mint. Mint water would be great for a pitta. You could do cold weather sports, and surround yourself with sweet scents, music, and emotions. When you do your self-massage in the morning, you're going to want to swap that sesame oil out for a coconut oil. It's a little bit cooler. And I think pranayama, or those breathing techniques, are going to be great for a pitta. Next slide, please. Managing kapha. You really want to get a kapha moving. If you're depressed kapha, you're going to really want to get moving. And I know it's a hard thing because they're unmotivated, but having that support and getting inspired and getting yourself moving is detrimental to a kapha. Participating in introspective activities like meditation or journaling, that's going to be great by stimulating the kapha. Stimulating foods and drinks and herbal remedies. So you're going to drink some coffee, some green and black teas. You're going to want to eat spicier foods, get your insides really invigorated. You want to invigorate your body and your mind. And you want to incorporate bitter and astringents. The astringents are going to really suck in that extra water retention. It's going to really hold everything together and give more of that stability. Next slide. Okay, I love this quote because it really is the mental imbalance management and prevention overall. So knowledge is power, power is wisdom, and wisdom is understanding. Once you have the knowledge of your doshas and how they interact in the world around you and understand that everything is interconnected and there is a balance to everything, you're going to have this power to help yourself and help your own health. You know how the seasons are and how aggravating they can be, or if not, how they can be associated to your dosha. You're going to want to understand that this knowledge is given to us and we're able to use this in our power to maintain and balance our own health. By knowing that your gut and your brain are very connected. You know that your dosha, I'm a vata, so I need to eat this way to pacify these imbalances. Or I have a pitta imbalance and I need to do this. This is ultimately going to give you, is going to help you with your mental health issues. And in the long run, help you overall just gain that and maintain that balance. Next slide, please. So, incorporating Ayurveda, where do you start? So, if you are worried about, some things going on and you don't necessarily want to take that step into going into the more Western side, you can incorporate, you probably already are incorporating Ayurveda into your life. Do you have a routine? Are you already waking up and drinking water and going to the bathroom right away? Those are already Ayurvedic things. You can start incorporating Ayurveda, and I suggest doing it in a more slow-paced manner. Ayurveda, you can start making a routine for yourself. Start looking at who you are and what kind of things are out of whack for you. I think that's a really good start for incorporating Ayurveda. Next slide. So dosha quiz, I know you're probably interested. You've heard all of us talk about these different doshas, and maybe you don't even know what dosha you are. I've listed 3 websites that have a dosha quiz on there. There are plenty more. I'm sure if you just Google dosha quiz, you can go ahead and take a couple of those and try kind of figure out what kind of dosha you are. It's really fun. I know we did this the first day of school, and I'm still kind of on the fence on where I am. It's all about learning yourself and knowing your body. Next slide, please. All right, reaching out. So I have my name and my email there. I know it's very hard for people to want to reach out about some problems that they are having, especially mental ones. If you're struggling with anxiety or depression, I know that the hardest part is the first step of recovery or getting help that you need. So I have my name and my email address there, or you can even schedule a consult with us. We are now taking consultations at the school. So we would all love to help you. We all are, this is what we are, our life now. This is what we do, and we all want to make sure that everybody has and maintains balance. And that's all for today. Thank you.
Just waiting on the PowerPoint to pull up. There we go. All right. I hope everyone is doing well today. My name is Isabelle Johanneck, and today I will be talking about daily routines, otherwise known as Dinacharya. So I'll be talking about the importance of a daily routine, how it connects back to Ayurveda, and how to create one for yourself. Next slide. All right, so going into what Ayurveda is. So in Sanskrit, the word Ayurveda means science of life, and this is considered the oldest science of healing, and this is done by connecting the mind, body, and spirit. Ayurveda is traced back more than 5,000 years, and it originated in India. However, its knowledge and practices are making their way to the rest of the world. So from practicing meditation to using the appropriate herbs, there are many practices of Ayurveda, both simple and complex, that can be incorporated into one's life. So one of the main focuses in Ayurveda is on prevention and really just bringing the balance into one's life by maintaining overall health. And this can be achieved by following a daily routine based on your dosha. Next slide. All right, so a little bit about the 3 doshas. In Ayurveda, they are called Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, and they can be understood as energetic forces of nature that really help us to better understand ourselves and the world around us. So everyone has a certain amount of the 3 doshas within them, and this creates a blueprint for their overall health, otherwise known as their constitution. And each dosha plays a super important role in the body. However, when these doshas are out of balance, problems can arise both physically and mentally. So, like I said before, Ayurveda is all about balancing the body, balancing the doshas, and making sure that we're healthy. So, if you are interested in just figuring out what your dosha is and also your current state of imbalance, I did put a link here, and it is on the Banyan Botanical website if you wanted to find out more about your dosha. Next slide. All right, so moving specifically into Vata dosha. Vata dosha means that which moves, and Vata has a certain time of the day, so I just listed the times and the best activities and best things to do for those certain times. The elements of Vata dosha are air and ether. I listed some of their main qualities, and although Vata is specifically in the large intestines, it also shows up in other parts of the body as well. And then going into the physical and mental aspects of Vata dosha. So physically, they're very thin, small, petite. They're going to have the thin pores, thin lips, scanty eyelashes, thin hair. And then mentally, when Vata dosha is in balance, they will be creative, independent, open to surroundings, inspired, adaptable. However, when Vata dosha is out of balance, they can experience anxiety, pain, worry, feel overwhelmed, and they can even experience some insomnia. Next slide. And then here I just put some pictures of things that kind of represent Vata dosha. So if you wanted to just take a look at these, maybe screenshot if you're interested in them. Just on the left, you can see the different areas in the body in which Vata resides, and then also some ways to balance Vata dosha. Next slide. And then going on to Pitta dosha, which means that which digests. And then Pitta dosha also has a specific time of the day. The elements of Pitta dosha are fire and water, and I also listed Pitta's qualities. And the chief location of Pitta in the body is the small intestines. And then physically and mentally. So physically, they're going to be a little bigger, medium built, medium bone structure, deep set eyes. And then mentally, when they are in balance, they are motivated, efficient, they are your leaders, they're passionate and confident. However, when they are out of balance, they can experience anger and jealousy, and they are impatient and they can be critical and confrontational. Next slide. And then again, just some pictures to represent Pitta dosha. Next. All right, so moving on to Kapha, so that which hold things together. Again, Kapha time of day and just some things to be aware of during those certain times. The elements for Kapha dosha are water and earth, and then I just listed some of their qualities and their governing actions, and then the chief location is in the stomach. And then physically, they are larger, they're stockier, they have the thick lips and lots of lashes and thick hair, smooth complexion. Mentally, when they are in balance, they feel grounded, they're nurturing, stable, loving, foundational. However, when they are out of balance, they feel lazy, they can be uninspired, they can experience depression, sadness, and they can feel very unmotivated. Next. All right, and again, just some pictures for Kapha dosha. Next. All right, so what is the importance of a daily routine? So the natural world is influenced by the rhythms of nature. So this can include the rising and setting of the sun, the cycles of the seasons, and it's really important for us as humans to follow this rhythm of nature as well. However, us humans have really lost focus on this importance. So within our daily lives, there are many aspects that interfere with a daily routine. And on top of this, most of us experience high levels of stress from the busy world around us. So by bringing a Dinacharya into this modern world of chaos, it can really provide us with a sense of grounding, stability, and predictability. So when we create a routine for ourselves that fits our dosha, we're really able to calm the nerves that are in an almost constant state of movement and stress. And additionally, a routine can really act as can serve as an act of self-love. So regardless of anything that we have going on in our life, when we include these healthy practices into our everyday life, we're taking time to focus on ourselves and give ourselves the attention that we really need. Next. All right, so when it comes to creating a routine for yourself, there's a few things to keep in mind. Ayurveda practices are awesome to incorporate, but some of them are easier and some of them are a little harder. The harder ones can require more focus and commitment. So the best way to go about starting a daily routine is by incorporating those smaller and easier practices into your routine first and really get used to them and get comfortable with them. And then you can work your way up to the more complex practices and slowly work them into your routine. And this will really guarantee that there is the least amount of stress and worry. Also, be realistic with yourself. Don't take on more than you can handle at once. This is not about, jumping into things. This is about really being balanced and being healthy and bringing these routines into your life in a healthy way. And in this case, less is more. Next. All right, so getting into daily routine practices. Next slide. So first things first, waking up. So depending on your dosha, there is a specific time of the day that is recommended to wake up and start your day. And depending on your dosha and what time you wake up, you should really aim to wake up around the same time every day. That will really create that routine and that consistency. And starting your day off early with these healthy practices will really set the mood and intention for the rest of the day. And then next is elimination. So it's really important to start off by emptying the digestive system, the bladder, the bowels, and this will really help to maintain the element of daily hygiene and health. And if you don't typically go to the bathroom first thing in the morning, which is very common, especially here in America, there are some practices that I will be mentioning that will really help this process. Next slide. All right, getting into oral hygiene. There are two things that I really wanted to focus on, tongue scraping and brushing your teeth. So tongue scraping removes accumulated toxins and bacteria on the tongue. It stimulates and cleanses the digestive tract and vital organs, and it supports the natural detoxification process. So on the upper left, I have a picture of a tongue scraper, and I also put a link from the Banyan Botanical website if you're interested in learning more about a tongue scraper and its benefits, and if you are interested in purchasing one. And then brushing your teeth. This is also an awesome practice of daily oral hygiene. And Ayurveda recommends cleansing the teeth with herbs that promote oral health. So I put a link to the Banyan Botanical tooth powder if you were interested in learning more about that or purchasing that as well. And that is pictured on the right. Next slide. All right, so sipping on warm water throughout the day. In this modern society, it is so common for people to have these ice cold drinks, ice water, ice juices, ice everything, and that's just really not good for the body. It's kind of like a shock to the body. So it's really important that your beverages are warm, room temperature, or even warmer. So sipping on warm water, it cleanses and activates the digestive tract and it hydrates the tissues. So this is one practice that will really help with those bowel movements throughout the day, especially in the morning. And then moving on to meditation and breathing techniques. This can be considered one of the most important parts of any routine because it really results in a calm and relaxed nervous system. So if meditation and breathing techniques is something that you've never done before or it's newer to you, there are very simple ways to start incorporating them, such as just sitting there and focusing on your breath for a few minutes every day. This alone can result in many beneficial effects. And just including very simple breathing techniques and a short meditation is awesome. Next slide. So specific meditations for Vata dosha. Next. All right, so Vatas tend to have a very overactive and ruminating mind, which can cause a lot of the imbalanced emotions that they feel, such as worry, fear, anxiety. So because of this, I wanted to focus the meditation for Vatas on mantras, specifically with mala beads. So mala beads are one tool that can be used to practice mantra, and if you don't have mala beads, you can simply repeat the mantra for 10 to So the two pictures I have on there are mala beads. So a little bit on how to practice mantra with mala beads. So you want to start by choosing a mantra that resonates with you. It can be a word, a phrase, a paragraph. It can be anything that really stands out to you or sits well with you. You want to sit in a comfortable position and place the mala beads in your hand, draping it over the middle, ring, and pinky finger, such as shown on the right picture. You can either close your eyes all the way or 3/4 of the way, whatever feels most comfortable to you, and really be mindful of your body and just relax it. You place one thumb on one bead at a time, and for each bead, silently or quietly repeat the mantra. You can do this for all 108 beads, or you can do it until your mind feels calm and relaxed. Next slide. All right, so moving on to meditations for Pitta dosha. Next slide. So with pittas, I wanted to really focus on breathing techniques. So this is because they often feel very angry, irritable. They have really heated emotions. So I wanted to focus on calming these intense feelings to guarantee that they reach a state of peace and quiet. So how to meditate with breath. So sit comfortably in a spot where there will be no distractions, no interruptions, just where you're very peaceful and calm. And you want to focus on a tall spine with your hands on your lap, palms facing up. Close your eyes either all the way or 3/4 of the way. Really focus on relaxing the body and focus on your breath. Don't try to change it, don't try to control it, just simply observe it. And you can do this for 10 to 15 minutes, which is recommended, or until you feel fully relaxed. And if your mind tends to wander during meditation or breathing techniques, just redirect your focus back to your breath. Next slide. All right, so moving on to meditation for Kapha dosha. Next slide. All right, so for Kapha doshas, they often feel sluggish, unmotivated, lethargic. So I really wanted to focus on something to get their bodies moving, to promote the circulation. And one way to do this is by walking, a walking meditation. And walking is not only good for the mind, mentality, but it's also really good for the physical body as well. So a little bit about walking meditation. You want to allow 10 to 15 minutes for the walk. And if it's too cold outside, you can always find a quiet and comfortable space inside, such as a long hallway. You can do laps around your room, anything, be creative with it. Before walking, set an intention for your meditation. Walk slowly with a natural breath. And you can also include some rhythmic motions, such as going back and forth, going in a long line, or even in a circular path. And just a little something to focus on while you're walking. So 3 words: lift, move, and place. So while you're walking, really focus your mind on your foot and the sensation of lifting it up off the ground, moving it through the air, and placing it back down on the ground. And at the end of your meditation, focus on how you feel. Focus on how your body feels, both physically and mentally. Next slide. All right, so another really important part of any daily routine is movement. I did just talk about movement for Kapha dosha, but movement for all doshas is awesome. It's encouraged. So movement encourages the body's natural detoxification process and activating the circulation and moving any stagnation from the body. So movement also really helps with loosening and waking up the joints and the muscles. So it's a really good thing to just go for a short walk right when you wake up in the morning, just to get the body moving, to get everything kind of, woken up. And there are many simple ways to incorporate movement, but one that everyone should focus on or try to focus on is yoga. And this is because it is a sister science to Ayurveda. So it is considered an essential part of any Ayurvedic daily routine. And in terms of general movement, Ayurveda recommends that you exercise to only about 50% of your capacity or until you break a mild sweat. So Ayurveda isn't about like going fully at it, sweating until you can't walk. Like it's very, it's about being balanced and just being healthy. So Ayurveda and Western medicine are very different in that way. Next slide. All right, so these are just a few general daily recommendations that apply to all doshas. So first things first, eat until you're only about 75% full. Never skip breakfast. While you're eating, avoid any distractions such as watching TV, social media, reading, talking a bunch. Make lunch the largest meal of your day, and this should be eaten between 11:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. Sit there and pause for a minute before eating. Don't just jump right into it. Keep mealtime conversation pleasant. Develop regular meal times throughout the day, so eating at the same time every day. Sit down while eating. You don't want to be up and walking and doing all this stuff and being unfocused. You really want to focus on the food. And then another thing, don't eat dinner or any other snacks or anything any later than 4 hours before you go to bed. And this is really about digestion. Next slide. All right, so specific recommendations for Vata dosha. Next slide. All right, so here I have food recommendations, daily guidelines, and spices and herbs. So I'm not going to go into everything. I just want to pick out a few important aspects of each one. So for food recommendations, really emphasize the qualities of warm, moist, dense, and non-stimulating. For taste, focus on sweet, salty, and sour. Food should always be well spiced and warmed or cooked. Eat organic as much as possible, so that means reducing processed, refined, and microwavable foods. And in terms of water, it is recommended for Vatas to drink 6 to 8 cups of water per day. Daily guidelines, avoid excessive aerobic exercise. Vatas are very sensitive to the cold, so avoiding any cold drafts and strong winds. And to protect yourself from this, it's recommended to wear a hat or scarf in those colder and windy weathers. And then I just listed some herbs or some essential oils for Vata dosha. And then spices and herbs. These can be easily incorporated into your day, either as foods, as teas. You can kind of incorporate it however you want. So here I have listed some Vata teas. And then another thing to help with elimination for Vata is take a half teaspoon of triphala in hot water before bed. And then I also listed some calming teas for Vatas, such as chamomile, lavender, lemon balm, and licorice. Next slide. All right, some meal ideas for Vatas. Next slide. And I'm just gonna say one thing from each, just time's sake. So for breakfast, a good idea would be stewed apple or pear. As a morning snack, you can have cottage cheese. For lunch, lassi with nutmeg. An afternoon snack, date with almond butter or ghee. And for dinner, khichdi with ghee. And I just have some pictures of a few of the different items that I have listed. Next slide. So recommendations for Pitta dosha. Next. All right, so food recommendations. So emphasize qualities of cool, dry, dense, and non-stimulating. Focus on taste of sweet, bitter, and astringent. And especially for pittas, reduce the intake of fried and spicy foods because pittas are all about the heat and fire, so you don't want to aggravate and bring them out of balance. All right, so increase the intake of good quality oils such as ghee, olive oil, or coconut oil. And then in terms of water, drinking 6 to 8 cups of water per day. Like I said before, room temperature or hotter. And if you don't like plain water, you can always add some lime juice in the summer or any time throughout the year. And then, like I said before, eliminate those ice beverages. For daily guidelines, especially important for pittas, avoid sunbathing and that prolonged exposure to sun, and wear sunglasses in the bright sun. And then I just have listed some appropriate essential oils for Pitta dosha, and then choosing cool colors to wear throughout the day. And then for spices and herbs, I listed some Pitta teas, a few things you can do before bed, including something to aid in elimination. And then drinking cooling teas such as Brahmi, licorice, rose petals, mint, and coriander. Next slide. And then some meal ideas for pittas. Next slide. All right, so for breakfast, one example would be oatmeal. Oatmeal is awesome. As a morning snack, you can have a hard-boiled egg. For lunch, sweet potato salad. As an afternoon snack, a drink idea would be mint tea with cool milk with rose water. And then for dinner, a tofu dinner with seasonal vegetables. Next slide. And then specific recommendations for Kapha dosha. Next. All right, so getting into food recommendations, emphasize the qualities of warm, dry, light, and stimulating, especially stimulating for those kaphas. Focus on pungent, bitter, and astringent tastes. And unlike the other two doshas where it's recommended to reduce or eliminate the caffeine, it is okay to include 1 cup of caffeinated beverage a day for kaphas. And then in terms of water, drinking 4 to 6 cups of heated water per day, and you can add lemon and honey to this as well. And then daily guidelines, I just have one listed, substituting a juice or smoothie for 2 meals 1 day a week. And then in terms of spices and herbs, I did put some kapha teas down. And to aid in elimination, taking half a teaspoon of triphala in hot water before bed, and drinking heating teas such as ginger, cinnamon, and clove. Next slide. All right, some meal ideas for kaphas. Okay, so for breakfast, quinoa flakes with spices and milk. As a morning snack, sunflower seeds. Lunch, cauliflower curry. Afternoon snack, ginger, cinnamon, and clove tea, or licorice, cinnamon, and mint tea. And then a dinner idea would be corn tortilla soup with vegetables and lentils, which sounds really good right now. Next slide. All right, so next I'm just going to be showing a food guideline chart. It is a bit in depth and it does have a lot of foods listed, so I'm just going to do a little general overview. So at the top, I listed each dosha and things to avoid and favor, and then on the left, I do have specific categories: fruits, vegetables, grains, and then just an overall idea of really where to go and what direction to go in. For vatas, it's really important, like I said, to focus on the sweet, sour, and salty, but to avoid the bitter, astringent, and pungent. For pittas, focusing on sweet, bitter, and astringent, and then really staying away from the salty, sour, and pungent. And then for kaphas, focusing on bitter, pungent, and astringent, and then staying away from the sweet, sour, and salty. Next slide. And then I just have some more categories listed. So legumes, dairy, animal foods, condiments, nuts. And then there should be one more slide with categories. So seeds, oils, beverages, and spices. So if you want to take a screenshot, reach out and I can always share this with you. So this is just an awesome guideline just to follow, and it's important to know that you shouldn't completely cut something out if you like it. It's good in moderation. So just being just like I said, in moderation is good, but this is just a guideline of maybe where to eliminate some stuff, reduce some stuff, and maybe to add some more stuff in. And then next slide. All right, so this is just a very simple, basic vata routine. You can obviously add some more things in, take some things out, but this is just a starting point for you. So you can kind of read through this, take a screenshot if you want. So this is just a few things, just some things to point out. Waking up by sunrise. And then in terms of journaling, each dosha should really focus on journaling about different things, and vatas should really focus on maybe journaling about what you're afraid of. Foot and hand massage with lavender or jadamumsi oil, and then going to bed by 10:30. Next slide. All right, pittas, just a few things to point out. All right, so waking up half an hour before sunrise. In terms of journaling about who or what irritates you and how you can cultivate compassion. Foot and hand massage with coconut oil and rose or lavender essential oil, and going to bed by 10:30. And then next slide will be kapha routine. So waking up 1 hour before sunrise. Journaling about what you are attached to and how you can practice letting go. Foot and hand massage with lavender or castor oil, and going to bed by 11 o'clock. And then there should be one more slide. All right, so it's now time for you to challenge yourself and incorporate these practices I had mentioned throughout your day. Remember, it's important to start off small and work your way up to the more complex practices. Like I said, go at your own pace, and I hope everything works out. Thank you so much for taking this time to listen to me, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jessica, and I am also with the Ayurveda Aesthetics class at IBW. So I am presenting daily habits of changing wellness across the world. And pretty much what I'll be talking about today are Marma points. It's one of my favorite Ayurvedic healing techniques. And so let's get started. Basically, ask yourself this question. What are you doing to keep physically healthy or mentally healthy? Most of you can say, oh, I've cut out dairy, I've cut out meats, I exercise consistently, I limit my processed foods. Or maybe some of you guys are in perfect condition health, or things don't affect you. Yet you can eat whatever you want, you don't gain weight, you don't have problems with constipation. Who knows? Normally, we all either have a problem or we know somebody that has a problem that they're consistently facing in their life. This could be your friend, your child, your parents, your coworker, or maybe even your own doctor. So, you could take medications, things just aren't helping you, they aren't working. And so that's why we'll be talking about Marma point therapy today. I'm going to start with the basics. So yes, I said one of my favorite Ayurvedic healing techniques. Well, what is Ayurvedic healing and what is Ayurveda? So let's start with the basics. Ayurveda medicine is a holistic system of medicine that was developed over 5,000 years ago by ancient sages originating in India. Yes, this is the medicine where it all originated. Okay, this is the medicine that yoga stems from. This is the medicine that meditation stems from. Things that have been proven to really help us mentally. And if you didn't know, our mind and body are pretty much one. Things that affect our body are affected by our mind as well. So Ayurveda puts this all together, okay? It's a medicine that's just as complex as any other medicine. It's basically built on the philosophy that our literal bodies correspond with elements of the world and energy of the world in and around us. What I mean by this is, Ayurveda is saying that we are made of these elements: earth, air, water, fire, ether, and it's saying that when you're sitting in a restaurant with a bunch of people and you feel uncomfortable, or you're waiting to get up to go to the bathroom because you don't want to be rude, these things that we are hiding instead of just actually doing can hinder us. The system of Ayurveda is a system that offers comprehensive understanding of the body, the mind, and the soul. Yes, something above human. So it teaches us that when we are perfectly balanced with these energies and with these elements of the world, our bodies and our minds are going to thrive. They're going to grow. They're going to maintain for what they should at our age and our time of life. But when we are unbalanced, our bodies and our minds deteriorate little by little, which is the underlying cause of a lot of diseases. And as you can see before, if you were watching the previous presentations, Ayurveda is a very complex medical system. Just like when you go to the doctor here, that's Western medicine. Ayurvedic medicine is just simply practiced in other places of the world. So what is all this history for anyways? It's important. It's important to know where Marma therapy comes from, because it comes from Ayurveda. It's important to know the history of any medicine because it goes it's how you explain what is simply happening for the healing of your body. So has anybody ever heard of Marma point therapy? This is known as Marma Chikitsa. It is called that in what we call the Sushruta Samhita, which is Marma Point's origination. It's Ayurveda's core ancient text of medical practice. And it's actually Marma Chikitsa or Marma Point therapy is the foundation of practices such as acupuncture and acupressure and reflexology, which you can see in the pictures below. You might have seen these or seen people do these. Practically Chinese medicine or India's medicine, holistic healing, where you're not taking medications to heal your body. Also, in the text, it is mapped out each point ranging in size from 1 to 6 inches in diameter. These Marma points are on the front and the back of the body. Marma points, in general, are energy points of the body that are used for healing, where 2 or more types of tissue meet. They can be compared to lymphatic points of the body. Everybody knows what lymph is, right? Your lymph nodes, they swell when your body is sick and needs healing. Well, these points, when you're rubbing these body parts and these points, they can help stimulate the removal of lymph. And this helps create the efficiency of body organs. It cleanses the body's blockages because energy points are located at sites that are richly supplied by nerves and blood vessels. So to get down to it, there are 107 Marma points. However, some people will say there are 108 if you include the mind. And like I said, these are mapped out, which I'll show on the next slide, and they can range anywhere between 1 to 6 inches in size. Okay, so it's a bigger area. A fun fact below, as you can see here on the slide, is that Marma has many different underlying meanings. It stems from the word mar, and some of these meanings can be kill, death, damage, hidden, or secret. And the reason that these names come to be is because these points are hidden. They're hard to find. Some of them they're underneath your clothes. They're in private areas that people shouldn't be in. So in certain activities such as martial arts, these Marma points or energy points are used to actually injure people. And these points are hidden for those reasons. In Ayurveda and Chinese medicine, however, these points are used to heal the body. So here on the left-hand side, I have a quote that I had pulled from a book here. I'm just going to show it to you quick. It's called Marma Points of Ayurveda. This is by Dr. Lev. This is a very in-depth book if you're interested in Marma points and Ayurvedic healing and how it all comes together and works. This explains everything down to the history, so on and so forth. And the quote is, "The research on energy points suggests the following. Energy points are located at sites that are richly supplied by nerves and blood vessels. Treatment here often restores balance to the autonomic nervous system, harmonizing your sympathetic and parasympathetic functions. Stimulating these points can release endorphins and neurotransmitters in the brain, resulting in pain modulation and mood enhancement. Stimulating points that can have therapeutic effort locally and distally." So that's a lot of information to take in. All of these energy points, I mean, they can do multiple things. They're stimulating the lymph. They're releasing endorphins, neurotransmitters in the brain, and hormone regulation. I mean, they provide circulation to these areas and around the areas that Oh, okay. I'm back. Okay, so let me get back into this because I'm not quite sure where I left off or where you guys lost me at. So because the body is releasing these neurotransmitters, these endorphins, these hormones, you're receiving circulation to these areas where you're massaging. It can restore your health. It can restore your organ. It can relieve pain. It can diagnose things. Say you push into a Marma point here on your calf that's related to your colon, right? Well, if it's very tender and it could possibly even be a little bit unbearable, that might be that, you know, you're having problems with regulation of the function of your colon. So you'll see that these Marma points can do more than just healing. They can calm the body. They can calm the mind. Actually, I'm going to go back. And then also here, you can see on the right side, these are not all the Marma points, but these are a lot of the Marma points that you will see on the front and the back of the body. You go all the way from the head, all the way down to the feet, okay? You'll even see that in genital areas, you have Marma points as well. All right. So basically, this slide is about how to use your Marma points, how to massage them, how to do what you need to do to get these wonderful results. First off, your hands. Your hands. Everybody knows that hands are for healing. Touch is a way of loving somebody. A lot of people love touch. It does something to them miraculously in the mind. Just touching a person, you don't even have to rub their mamas. So hands are very important. Normally you can use the thumb like this. You can use a finger. You can use 2 fingers. You can actually even use your palm, okay? To the right of that, you're gonna go ahead and see, these are some more Marma tools. These are more used for the face. Some people use them in facials as well. Down below, you'll see Kanza tools. That's where it has the wooden holding piece. And you can see there that they are mapped out different sizes for different parts of the body. As you go over, you see lavender essential oil. So you can use essential oils with this. You want to use oils when you're rubbing these Marma points. You don't have to, but it helps. And not only that, things like lavender, which are good for anxiety, stress, pain, sleep, headache. Lavender is also an antioxidant. So you put these things on your bodies, on your Marma points that are energy points that are open and great receptors. And it actually enhances those benefits, enhances that feel. Next to it, I have Ajurna. And what this is an Ayurvedic herb that is such a good herb for your heart. I mean, grief and sadness, this is wonderful for Marma point healing, chakra healing. It strengthens and tones your circulatory system. So not only are you massaging and enhancing the circulation in these areas, but if you add Ajurna to it, this is just enhancing those effects. It rejuvenates soft tissue. It promotes heart function, healthy cholesterol levels, and blood pressure. So right here in this picture, Ajurna transdermal cream skips going through the liver and right into your bloodstream. Effects come a lot faster and don't get diminished by all the toxins that are in your body. Next, I have on here some sesame oil. Sesame oil is great for the body. And if you were watching the previous Ayurvedic presentations before, you know that, you know, the way that we are made up with these elements and these energies, we are doshic. And for instance, sesame seed oil can be very great for somebody who is a vata. But overall, Sesame seed oil is great for nourishing and preventing dryness in your scalp, in your tissues, in your skin, in your bones. It's great dietary fiber for your colon. It enhances your nervous system as well. So you want to use things like this when massaging on your body to enhance these principles that we're talking about today for healing. All right, so right here I have a picture of a face, okay? And these are just some of the Marma points that are on your face and on your head. So we are going to go through an activity together, if you guys do not mind doing this along with me. And I'm going to take my glasses off because I remain calmer that way. It brings me down, okay? So what we're going to do is I'm going to go through some of these Marma points with you. I'm going to talk you through a Marma facial massage. And for those of you SD students, you know, these are things that you can incorporate into your facials. Because not only do they provide, you know, mental healing, but they also provide that physical healing as well, such as rubbing on the chin. This can promote radiance because it's working your digestive system, okay? So just keep those things in mind. So what I'm gonna have you guys do is I want you to sit and I want you to find a comfortable position. So whether that's just sitting up or if you're crossing your legs and sitting on the ground, or even if you want to lay on the ground, that's completely fine. So I'm gonna have you take, I'm gonna personally use my index finger. Now, if you wanna take your thumb, that's completely fine as well, however you would like to do it. And I'm just going to apply gentle pressure onto my third eye chakra, or in other words, this specific Marma is called Santhpani, and it's in the middle of your eyebrows, maybe a little bit up, okay? And like I said, it's at your third eye chakra. Now this is going to stimulate your pituitary gland and your pineal gland. So this is going to help with hormone regulation, okay? It's also touching your frontal vein, and it's going to help stimulate the circulation in your front lobe of your head and of your brain. This is going to help with focus and equilibrium, okay? It's going to calm your mind. It's going to relieve some stress. It's going to stimulate your memory. This is used for a lot of things, okay? So this is just simple at home, something that you can do. And I just want you to rub this or circle or massage this gently with a gentle touch, enough for you to just kind of feel a little movement going on. And I want you to close your eyes and just take a few minutes to breathe, okay? We can breathe in and out. Breathe in and out. Generally, you just want to massage each Marma for 1 to 2 minutes. And just kind of focusing in that area. Focus your mind there. Let it settle into your intuition and your consciousness of who you are and what you are. And then I want you to take both hands and I want you to move to the middle of your eyebrows. About the midline of your eyebrows. Some people will push where their arch is. And I just want you to massage circular motions, clockwise, counterclockwise. And this is called Avarta. Okay, this is your Avarta Marma. And this is on your bone or your joint, okay? And this enhances the circulation to the frontal lobe as well. It relieves headache, it relieves stress. Got a lot going on for this frontal end, okay? And you're just breathing it in, taking it in, okay? And then you're going to move down to right above your temple. Well, not right above, but slightly behind and above your temples, kind of towards your ear, if you can see that. And just kind of fall into that little hole that you feel there. See, this right here is your Akshirpa. Your Akshirpa. And this is not necessarily your temple, but it's connected to your jaw. It's connected to your jaw, which is a very tight muscle, a very strenuous area, because most of the time we're talking a lot. We're eating, we're drinking, we're doing things. So let's massage this. Like I said, just above the temples, a little bit more towards your ear. And this is made up of ligaments and tendons. Like I said, it's connected to your jaw, but it also relieves your eye tension. It calms and decreases your stress. It eases your mind. Also, if we're getting deep into Ayurveda, it decreases stomach acid in a pitta. It helps with the tension in your jaw. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, and so now we are going to go down to the sides of our nose. And this is going to be right where your nostrils start to open. And you're just going to take your fingers and you're going to push up and out, okay? And you'll fall right into that hole, okay? And you want to lightly massage. This relieves congestion. For those of you that have allergies, sinus pressure, things like that. It enhances your life force energy, okay? Calms and balances the mind as well. Releases tension in your upper face. And then we're going to bring it down to the middle of the bottom of our chin. Just do a little slight motion. I like to use my palm here and push more tension onto here. Feels better to me. And then we're going to bring this up. We're going to come from the bottom and we're going to bring it up, and we're just going to gently go right on that jawline. Right on that jawline. And like I said, you know, these are bigger marmas. You can use more fingers. Use 2, 3 fingers, you know, and give yourself a nice little massage in that area. All right. And then we're just going to finish off by bringing it back to that third eye center. Up to the top of our head here. Right at the line where your hair is. You'll feel a really tender spot up there. This is Samanta. This calms and balances your emotions. It aids in your coordination. It stimulates your memory. It relieves headache as well. And you just want to do, you know, counterclockwise and clockwise. And then as you're releasing that pressure, we just want to sit there for a moment and take a few breaths. Releasing any tension that you have. And you slowly and gracefully want to release tension until you're ready to just come off and you can barely feel your finger leaving. A great way to feel refreshed. A great way to come home and give yourself a little 5 minutes of peace, relaxation, coming home, coming back down, and settling yourself in. Good for your skin, good for your brain, good for your organs. Simple ways to incorporate it into your daily routine to feel better, not only mentally, but physically over time. And then incorporating these transdermal creams, incorporating these oils for smooth movement, and for nutrients and the effects that, whatever you choose to use, whether it be lavender or tulsi or ajurna or ashoka, whatever herbs you choose to use, these are the best things that you can do for your health on a daily basis. It's just like brushing your teeth every day. So let me go ahead and go on. I know I'm running time here, so let me put my glasses on. Excuse me. All right. So we're going to focus on the hand now. And if you take your hand, I'm going to use this hand. This is my good hand. And you close your hand ever so slightly. You can see where your middle finger touches your hand. This is going to be your heart center of your hand. So this is where the Marma is. And you can use your thumb. Most of the time, this is the easiest way to do this. So this is called your Tala Hirda, okay? And what it does is it balances your heart, your mind, and relieves stress and emotion. So a lot of these Marma points do that. They balance your mind, they relieve your stress and your emotion, because the body and the mind are one. And when you push these things, you have sensory reflex that hit the brain to release endorphins and neurotransmitters. So it's very easy for a lot of these to relieve stress by the slightest and just relieve your mind from what's been going on all day. It also regulates functions of the lungs and diaphragm. It can help with people who have ADHD, poor concentration, sitting in class, sitting in a presentation. Go ahead and rub some of these Marma points that you can do without looking funny. This is an easy way to undistract yourself, but at the same time, have a healthy sort of distraction. It helps with arthritis of the hand. If you have carpal tunnel syndrome, this helps relieve that, okay? And it also helps with pain, swelling in the wrist. Somebody who is kapha has swollen hands from edema. This can help, okay? So you just want to, like I said, you just want to close your hand like this. Wherever your middle finger sets, that's where your Marma point is. You can take your other hand and just grab that area. Grab that area and do a slight little rotation. Counterclockwise is going to open up those energy points and get rid of, help get rid of those toxins. And then if you're going counterclockwise, that's going to help ground you. That's going to help bring in the good stuff. So we want to make sure we're doing counterclockwise and clockwise, okay? Like I said, most of the time we want to do gently, but in certain places, like I said here, your jaw, you're going to want to do that more tense or more pressure added there. Your calf, you're going to want to do more pressure there so you can actually feel what's going on. All right, and last but not least, intrabasta, or in other words, intrabasti. This is going to be in your calf muscle. As you can see, I have 3 pictures here because you can access this from the frontal and the posterior. So you kind of want to find that where your calf muscle and your other muscle meet, and just sort of in the middle there. And you're going to kind of feel your finger. I use my thumb to go right into that little hole there in between those two. Okay. The top picture is very nice to see because if you're doing this on somebody else, or say you're doing this on your significant other, you can grab onto it almost. And so what this does is it promotes circulation in your lower extremities, relaxes the muscles, It regulates menses for some people who have a very hard menses. It stabilizes your mind, your emotional disturbances. It can help with vascular disease. A lot of people get varicose veins. A lot of people get those little spider veins in their legs. Well, this is going to help with that because it's promoting the circulation in your lower extremities. Pain, edema of lower extremities, people who have leg swelling, people who have feet swelling in the summertime, anything like that. Muscle cramps. I know tons of people who get muscle cramps, especially in their calves, So you can use this Marma point and you can massage that area to help with these things. Colon dysfunction, because this Marma point goes straight, correlates with the colon. So this can help with regulation of IBS and other things like Crohn's disease. So you're just gonna, again, excuse me while I stand here, and you're gonna find that area back there, and you're just gonna push into this area. You're gonna push. And you wanna make sure that your muscles and your legs are relaxed. So here, I'm not flexing my leg. I'm relaxed. My muscle's not tense. And I'm getting right in there. And I'm pushing. I'm pushing. All right. So this can also help with sciatica pain. People have this from their back, shooting pain. This can definitely help relieve that as well. So, in conclusion, while Marma points are vulnerable areas of our body, they hold great potential to improving our health and wellness. The manipulation of these Marma points can be quite effective when using to treat mild or even short-term illnesses, because in Ayurveda, we are preventing disease from the origin, okay? So now that you're aware of these energy channels and their relationship to your well-being, I would love for you to try adding some of these into your habits of daily activities, okay? And although Marma therapy alone cannot get rid of certain diseases, you're encouraged to combine Marma therapy with other practices. You're encouraged to add in those essential oils that can give you more than just what your fingers will do. You can add in breathing exercises before you start. You can add in stretching and those seasonal diets and so much more to help you relieve some of those things that you might be dealing with, or maybe even your friend is dealing with. And that is my class. So I hope you guys all enjoyed. Thank you so much.